Marcus had barely taken a step onto familiar street when he felt it, a tension slicing through the calm afternoon. The car from before had stopped a few houses down, engine idling, eyes fixed on him. At first, he tried to ignore it, telling himself he was overthinking. But then the footsteps began, deliberate, heavy, echoing on the pavement behind him. He glanced over his shoulder. A man, uniformed, stared back with an intensity that made his stomach twist. No greeting, no explanation, just judgment in motion. Marcus's heart raced. Every instinct screamed to move faster, to run, but reason held him in place. What could he say? What could he do? The man called out sharply, "Hold up!" Marcus froze. His hands went to his backpack, as though it could shield him from suspicion itself. Around him, neighbors continued their routines oblivious, while he felt the weight of every assumption, every stereotype, pressing down on him. Minutes, or was it seconds? Felt like hours. Questions swirled in his mind. Why him? What had he done? And why did it feel like the world was seeing only the color of his skin, ignoring the person he truly was? Each step forward now was heavy with fear, yet he couldn't stop walking. And just when it seemed the confrontation might pass, another voice joined in, angry, accusatory, unrelenting. Marcus realized this was no isolated misunderstanding. It was a system in motion, ready to judge before it listened. Could a single, ordinary afternoon become the turning point in his life? Could he find justice in a world that seemed stacked against him? It was a quiet afternoon. Marcus had just finished his shift at the local library, carrying the same worn backpack he had for years. His neighborhood was familiar, a place where neighbors waved and kids played in the yards. Life felt ordinary, safe, predictable. He locked his front door, unaware of the eyes watching from across the street. A car slowly cruised past, its windows tinted, its presence heavy with silent scrutiny. Marcus adjusted his jacket, trying not to let the unease settle in. This street had always been calm, but today, something felt off, though he couldn't say why. As he walked to his mailbox, a stranger's gaze followed him. A voice whispered judgment in the form of suspicion. And for the first time, Marcus felt a shadow over his safety. He had no idea that a single, seemingly normal walk would soon escalate into a confrontation that would challenge every assumption he had about trust, fairness, and belonging. What happens when the world starts seeing you as a threat, simply for who you are? It was a quiet afternoon. Marcus had just finished his shift at the local library, carrying the same worn backpack he had for years. His neighborhood was familiar, a place where neighbors waved and kids played in the yards. Life felt ordinary, safe, predictable. He locked his front door, unaware of the eyes watching from across the street. A car slowly cruised past, its windows tinted, its presence heavy with silent scrutiny. Marcus adjusted his jacket, trying not to let the unease settle in. This street had always been calm, but today, something felt off, though he couldn't say why. As he walked to his mailbox, a stranger's gaze followed him. A voice whispered judgment in the form of suspicion. And for the first time, Marcus felt a shadow over his safety. He had no idea that a single, seemingly normal walk would soon escalate into a confrontation that would challenge every assumption he had about trust, fairness, and belonging. What happens when the world starts seeing you as a threat, simply for who you are? Marcus's chest tightened as the man stepped closer, the street suddenly feeling smaller, more suffocating. Every step he took seemed heavier, weighed down by suspicion and fear. The man's hand hovered near his belt, a silent threat that spoke louder than words ever could. Marcus's mind raced. One wrong gesture, one misunderstood movement, and everything he had taken for granted, his safety, his dignity, his future, could vanish in an instant. A crowd had begun to gather, drawn by the tension, their whispers blending into a low, constant hum of judgment. Phones were raised, cameras capturing his every move, while Marcus felt invisible and hypervisible all at once. His hands shook, and yet he forced them to stay at his sides, showing nothing but composure. But inside, the storm of fear, anger, and helplessness raged. Then came the accusation, sharp and cutting. "You're not supposed to be here." Those words, so simple yet so heavy, struck Marcus like a blow. He tried to explain, to reason, but every plea seemed swallowed by the weight of preconceived notions. The air felt electric, the moment stretching, unbearable, as if time itself was holding its breath. In that instant, Marcus realized this wasn't just a personal confrontation. It was the embodiment of countless stories, countless moments where judgment came before understanding. Every fiber of his being screamed for justice, yet the world demanded compliance before truth. And then, just as the tension peaked, a siren blared in the distance, cutting through the silence, offering a fragile glimmer of hope, but also uncertainty. Would help arrive in time? Could fairness ever outweigh fear? Marcus's life teetered on an edge, and everything he believed about safety and trust was suddenly up for grabs. Marcus finally took a deep breath as the tension eased, the sirens drawing closer, voices around him softening. He made it through that night, but the weight of what had happened pressed heavily on his chest. Every glance, every whispered comment, every moment of fear was now etched into his memory. He had survived, yes, but he was not unchanged. The humiliation, the anger, and the haunting realization of how easily bias could threaten his life would stay with him forever. In the days that followed, Marcus reflected on what had happened, not just as a personal ordeal, but as a reflection of society still grappling with deep-seated prejudice. His story was not unique. Countless others have faced similar moments where the color of their skin dictated how they were perceived, treated, or feared. The pain he carried was a reminder that justice and understanding often lag behind awareness and empathy. Yet, even in the darkness, Marcus found a spark, a determination to share his experience, to make others see, to awaken a sense of responsibility in those who might otherwise look away. His encounter became more than a single incident. It became a call to action, a mirror reflecting a broader truth, that racism is not just in headlines or history books. It lives in everyday interactions, in moments both seen and unseen. How many more will have to endure what Marcus did before society truly confronts the injustice that lingers? Change begins when we acknowledge, when we speak, and when we refuse to remain silent. His story is a testament, a challenge, to all of us. Will we see, hear, and act, or will we let another moment slip by, unchallenged, unlearned?